This inscription and the question of borders of the Phoenician motherland, and we're talking here about the southern borders between Phoenicia and the Kingdom of Israel, or the Kingdom of Israel and Judah, or historical Palestine. And this is a personal reflection. As I mentioned in the previous presentation, my previous video presentation, the land of Canaan included modern-day Lebanon, northwestern Syria beyond the Orontes River, Israel or historical Palestine, and western Jordan, down to the Sinai Peninsula, which was the border between the land of Canaan and the land of Egypt. Classically, the southern border of Phoenicia was Mount Carmel, east of the modern-day city of Haifa in Israel. The current border between the state of Lebanon and that of Israel-Palestine dates to the end of the First World War in the last century, and was a result of the Sykes-Picot agreement between the French and the English to divide the Levant that was until 1918 under Turkish rule. If we go back in history to the time of King Eshmunazar II, who reigned between 539 and 525 BC, the borders were different. And I have made a video presentation about King Eshmunazar inscription, actually two videos, so you can review them if you wish. But I'm taking this passage from the inscription to where King Eshmunazar talks about the borders, the southern borders. And he says, Wa'ed yaten lanu adon milchim, dur uyapi, artsot dagon ha'idrit, ish bishad sharon, limetet atzmot ichtaalti, uisapponunam alad gubule aretz, tukunenom let sidonim naolom. So what he's saying is that the King of Kings, or the Lord of Kings, has given him the lands of city of Dor and city of Jaffa or Jaffa, and the land of the plain of Sharon, because of the mighty works he did. And he annexed those areas to the borders of the land of Canaan, or the land of the Phoenicia, to remain for the Phoenicians, Sidonians are Phoenicians, forever. So the borders at the time of King Eshmunazar II was down to Dor and Jaffa, modern-day southern suburb of Tel Aviv. So even Tel Aviv itself was part of the Phoenician homeland at the time of King Eshmunazar II. The inscription and the question of borders of the Phoenician motherland, and here we're talking about the southern borders. Even Ashkelon, more down south, that is 50 kilometers south of modern-day Tel Aviv, became a Phoenician city in the Persian era. Ashkelon was under the control of Tyre according to Pseudo-Silax, 4th century BC. With the division of Alexander's empire, Ashkelon, or Ascalon, as it was then known, was included in the Ptolemy's domain, and it became a free port and an autonomous city, like the city of Human, from which our inscription comes from. If we even go back in time to the days of King Solomon, the Bible tells us about the cities of Galilee that were given as a reward to King Hiram of Tyre for building the Temple of Jerusalem. So we read in Chronicles 8:10 to 13. Now, at the end of the 20 years during which Solomon built these two houses, the house of the Lord and the royal palace, King Solomon gave 20 towns in the land of Galilee to Hiram, king of Tyre, who had supplied him with cedar and cypress logs and gold for his every desire. So Hiram went out from Tyre to inspect the towns that Solomon had given him, but he was not pleased with them. What are these towns you have given me, my brother? Asked Hiram, or Hiram. And he called them the land of Kabul, as they are called to this day. The inscription and the question of borders of the Phoenician motherland. And so, where was this Kabul? Kabul in Hebrew, or Kabulo or Kabulon, is a location in the Lower Galilee mentioned in the Hebrew Bible. Now, the Kabul local council in Israel is 9 to 10 miles, that is 16 kilometers east of Akko or Acre. So it is somewhere here. And the name apparently signifies good for nothing. And we say that also in modern day Lebanese, something to be Al-Kab is be thrown away. Kabba is throw away. And I just want to mention something. So King Hiram calls King Solomon brother. Is he his brother? Well, if we go back to the Bible again, we know that Solomon was the son of Bathsheba. Bathsheba herself was the wife of Uriah the Hittite, and we know that the Hittite were Canaanites. So King Solomon was half Canaanite. And even if we go to his father's side, we know that he had also three Canaanite women in his genealogy. So we know Tamar. We talked about her when we discussed the last couple of years ago when we discussed the drag queen of Astarte. You can go back to my videos and review that. And we know also from the Bible the story of Rahab, who was a prostitute and who allowed the Jewish people to enter the city of Jericho, and and her life and the life of her family was spared. And also we have the story of Ruth, who was a Moabite. And as I said, the Moabite were also Canaanite because they lived in the land of Canaan. So Ruth, the daughter-in-law of Naomi, was also a Canaanite. And also those four women, Tamar, Rahab, Ruth, and Bathsheba, are also in the genealogy, the female genealogy of our Lord Jesus Christ. So if Jesus was a Canaanite, he was a Canaanite through those four women. So we know that the Blessed Virgin, Mary, was from the tribe of Judah and daughter of David. And we know that these and Solomon and those ladies are in the genealogy of David and also of Solomon. So this is intriguing and very interesting. During the war in Lebanon, here I'm going to be a bit personal. People used to say that Syria was the sister of Lebanon, شقيقة لبنان, الشقيقة سوريا. But in fact, if you go back to the Bible, sister of Lebanon is not Syria, it's Israel. Because, we all speak Canaanite language, we live on the land of Canaan, and there was intermarriage and intermixing between the Jews and Canaanite. So we are somehow brothers and sisters. I know that this will upset some people, but this is the reality if we go back to history and we go back to the Bible. I'm going to add one more thing. One of our friends uh, on the internet, he mentions on his webpage that he accuses the Jews and accuses the Bible of mistreating the Phoenicians. I don't share his views. I think the Bible was an oben, une aubaine, as one of my bosses used to say. Aubaine means it's a bonus, it's a treasure trove, it's a windfall for us because it talks about the Phoenicians. Because without the biblical Hebrew, we cannot understand the Phoenician. We could not have understood the Phoenician language. And although the Bible sometimes um, criticizes the Canaanites and the Phoenicians, but nonetheless, it mentions them and it talks a lot about them. And I'm very thankful to the Bible. I'm very thankful to The Jews, I hate no Jew, no Muslim. I love everyone, and I want everyone to be living in peace and harmony together. And together we can succeed and we can make peace and not war. This inscription and the question of borders of the Phoenician motherland. So more reflection about borders. Borders are arbitrary but important markers for state sovereignty. Even in southern USA, state without a border is not a state. These borders could be easily crossed in times of peace, like it was for 3 decades when I was a child and adolescent between 1976 and the year 2000, at the time of Al-Jidar al-Tayyib, Hagader Hatova, between, again, South Lebanon and Israel, northern Israel. Peace is important for people to live and thrive across borders. Borders could become meeting points between brothers and enemies. Borders could become a hub of cultural exchange and economic opportunities, especially during peace. Borders are not a physical obstacle. They could be conduits of interactions between peoples and political systems. The borders could be a lifeline, which was the case for my ancestors in southern Lebanon to flee the massacres in 1920 and again to survive the Lebanese civil war between 1975 and the year 2000.